Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Clayton. This is my movie talk channel. Today, we are going to be reviewing the movie Unforgiven. This is a Western film released in 1992, directed by Clint Eastwood and starring Clint Eastwood, Gene Hackman, and Morgan Freeman. This is one of my favorite Western films of all time, second only to Tombstone, which I also previously reviewed. You can check that out if you're interested. Unforgiven is one of the films that I saw for the first time years ago, but never really had a love for it. I saw it for the first time, I think, when I was somewhere in my late teen years, probably, I think, 17, 18, 19, somewhere around there. And I remember liking it, but I didn't come back to it again until several years later. And when I saw it for the first time on repeat, so my second viewing of it, I liked it even more than what I had remembered liking it the first time. And over the years, as I've watched this movie over and over again, it has quickly jumped up the ranks in my Western films, and is now my second favorite Western film of all time. I absolutely love this film. I love it more and more every time I see it. I think there's just so much in this story and so much to be said. This is a story with deep meaning to it. It's a very dark movie. It's a lot of dark stuff takes place in this film, but it's essentially a movie about truth and how you can't ultimately run from who you are. The truth will have its day, and you have all these individuals, all these characters in this film that are essentially trying to hide who they really are. They're trying to run from the truth and run from accepting the truth about who they are. So you have Clint Eastwood's character, William Money, who we're told from the very beginning was a notorious violent person with a very violent disposition to him. But throughout this film, he has cleaned up. He no longer lives that life. His wife kind of straightened him up. He no longer drinks. He no longer does any type of wickedness. He's essentially tried to live the good life and be a good father to his two kids now. But we see ultimately throughout this film, at the end of the day, he's not the man that he's pretending to be. He's trying to be. He's putting on this front that he's a good, a wholesome person now, but the film shows us that he really hasn't changed. He really is William Money, who is known for being a notorious violent person. That's who he truly is inside, and he finally comes to, I think, realize that towards the end of this film. A certain event takes place, and we see the true William Money kind of come out of him, and you see that the truth will have its day. And it's a really fascinating way to tell a story of truth and how you can't hide who you really are at the end of the day. And then his partner Ned, who's played by Morgan Freeman, is the opposite of William Money. He used to be someone that was always good at heart. He always went along with the ride with Clint Eastwood's character, but it was Clint Eastwood's character, William Money, that was the savage, violent person, and Morgan Freeman was the person who was good at heart, but now he's acting as if he is a killer, and he's acting as if he has what it takes to kill these two men. But his character, when put to the test and put in the situation where he has the chance now to kill one of these two men, doesn't take it. He can't go there. He realizes, and I think it's a great acting performance by Morgan Freeman in the scene when he realizes that he's not that person. He's not the man that he's uh, playing himself off to be. That he really is good and clean inside at the end of the day, and he can't run from that. He can't hide the truth of who he really is. So you have his character that's kind of the opposite of Clint Eastwood's character, and then their other partner, the young kid who goes along with them, acts like he's this cold blooded killer, this tough guy that is able to he's killed 5 people, we're told, and he kind of puts on this front like he's a real tough guy. But we find out later on that he's not who he was claiming to be either. So it's a movie, ultimately a beautiful story that about truth and how you may try to fool other people into believing that you're someone you're not, but at the end of the day, the truth will win out, and the truth will have its day. And the way that the story is told is, I think, in a beautiful way. And this is a film that also has some really great lines in it, really memorable lines. One of my favorite lines in this film is by Clint Eastwood's character, William Money, when he tells the young kid that's going along with him, kind of his partner in this journey. He tells him, "We've all got it coming, kid." And it's a great line, and a very truthful line, because at the end of the day, we all do have it coming. We all deserve justice for our wickedness and our sins in our life. And that line, it kind of gets looked over a lot by a lot of people, but there's a lot of truth in that statement by William Money, that we all do deserve the justice for the crimes that we've done in our lives and the wickedness in our lives. And there's a lot of deep meaning in this film, and a lot of the lines that are delivered. So it's a fantastic film. Gene Hackman delivers a great performance in this film. Actually took home the Oscar that year for Best Supporting Actor. And deservedly so, because he does a great job playing Little Bill, kind of your antagonist in a way in this film. Although I do think one of the great things about this film is that it shows you the perspective of each character in this film, and how each character truly thinks that they're doing the right thing. They truly think that their actions are justified when they're not. And so even though Little Bill is, I guess, technically would be considered the antagonist, you even get to see his perspective as to why he does the things he does, and he really thinks that he's right. He's not your typical villain where he knows what he's doing is wrong, he's trying to be evil. No, Little Bill thinks what he's doing is right. He thinks he actually stands for justice. And so it's a fascinating way to show the perspective of each character, and how they each think that what they're doing is right. The acting performances by everyone are fantastic. Clint Eastwood does a great job playing William Money. Gene Hackman, again, does a fantastic job playing Little Bill. Morgan Freeman does a great job. It's full of really great performances across the board. Really intense scenes and intense moments throughout this film. One particular in a jail cell with Gene Hackman's character and this other character named English Bob. And there's an intense kind of showdown between the two of them at one point. And then the end scene with Gene Hackman's character and Clint Eastwood's character, also very intense. And I think the acting by Clint Eastwood there was especially exceptional in that last scene. Just the look in his eyes when he's standing there in front of Little Bill, and it's there's no score, there's no music playing. You just hear the thunderstorm outside that's going on, which I also think is symbolic, representing the emotion of that moment as well. But some great and intense moments in this film. Great performances all around. A great story and a script. I think the dialogue is good. It's not anything that's over the top as far as the dialogue. It's not Tarantino type of dialogue in this film, but it's dialogue that fits the characters, and it's the dialogue that works for this film. I always say you need to know the film that you're making and make things fit that film. And a heavy dialogue would not fit for this film. A Tarantino dialogue would not work in this particular film. You have to know the film that you're making and what works for that film. And I think the dialogue here works for the film that's being made, works for the script, works for the characters. I don't think any of the dialogue here felt out of place, out of character for any of the characters here. I think it all worked. So the writing is excellent. The performances are top notch. The directing by Clint Eastwood is fantastic. I think arguably his best directed film. The look of Big Whiskey is fantastic. I love some of the shots that he pulls off here of the horizon and in the sunset, and just some of the shots of him and Ned riding through the country. And you see all the mountains and the old western frontier of Wyoming. It's beautifully shot. I think the setting looks good. The set design is fantastic. There's not a lot of score in this film. There's just kind of this soft fiddle, it sounds like, being played in the opening and end scenes that kind of bookends the film. But there's really not much score here at all. And typically I would have a problem with that, but again, in Unforgiven, it works. And that shows a sign of great filmmaking by the director Clint Eastwood, making that conscious decision to not have much score in this film, because this is again a film that doesn't need iconic score. It doesn't need great score in it. It's a film that you're gonna get the most emotion out of it when you let things feel real, and you let there be a genuine feel to this film of not much score playing in the background. Everything feels more real, feels more intense. The confrontations feel more intense because you feel like you're actually there, and there's no score playing. It builds up those intense scenes more. So I think it was actually a genius decision and a great decision by director Clint Eastwood to not include much score in this film, because it fits the script, it fits the story, it fits the feel and the theme of this film. Now, there is some score in the film, and the score that is there, I think, works for each scene that it's in. So a great directing by Clint Eastwood. This film also won the Oscar for Best Film of 1992. I believe Clint Eastwood also did win Best Director as well. So this is an absolutely great film. As far as negatives go, I really don't have any negatives with Unforgiven. To me, this is a 5-star film. It's a 5-star masterpiece. Subjectively speaking, it's a perfect film. I don't find any faults subjectively with this film. There's nothing in here that bothers me. There's nothing in here that I would change. It gives me a perfect viewing experience. I understand that not everybody shares that same feeling as I do, and that's fine. We all have different experiences with films. We all have different things that bother us in films, different things that we love in certain films. And for me personally, Unforgiven gives me a perfect viewing experience. There's nothing in here that I would change. nothing here that bothers me. I think it's perfect the way it is. So Unforgiven is a 5-star masterpiece. I absolutely love this film. I love the performances. The characters are great. The story is very deep, a very deep story in this, and there's a lot to be said in this film, mainly about truth and the fact that we can't hide from who we are at the end of the day. That truth will have its day, and so and there's much more than that as well. If you haven't seen this film, I would highly recommend it. It is rated R, so there is a lot of kind of heavy content in this film. So if you have kids or whatnot, it may not be a film you want to watch around them. It is some heavy content, but again, I think it's content that it's not filler content. It's content that's actually doing something. It's actually serving the story. It's actually doing something for the story. It's setting up characters. It's setting up plot. It's setting up what this story is ultimately about. So it is needed content for the sake of the film. But just be aware of that if you haven't seen this film. It is a very dark film. It is a very graphic film, but I think it's a fantastic. The execution here is fantastic, and I thoroughly enjoy it every time. The pacing is good. The rewatch value is very high for me, and it just a big fan of the performances and this film as a whole. So that's my thoughts on Unforgiven, guys. Let me know your thoughts on this film if you've seen it. Let me know in the comments section what other films do you want me to review. And thank you guys for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.